doesn't need a new supreme. It needs a new rug.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, good evening.
What are we doing tonight?
I don't know, what are we doing tonight?
Welcome, everyone, to Hex Offenders, which is a live show part of the Hex Education Network. My name is Christian Day, the Warlock, and...
Hoodoo and Moise, how you doing?
Anyway, tonight's episode is about walking your magical talk, and we're hoping people are in the chat. I have not seen anything yet. So, oh God, please tell me we are actually live streaming. If someone could say something. Oh, here we go. Oyana Merritt. Also, if you could tell us where you are live streaming and where you are commenting from. Are you live on your page, Kirk?
I believe so.
so.
Hold on a minute, let me check right quick.
Cool. Yeah, they got this error here.
Yes.
Oh, cool. They got this stupid error where I see
hit
like...
the start button right there?
No, you don't need to do that.
I don't need to do none of that?
No. That's just to do a watch party. I mean, you can start it if you want to watch party, then it'll maybe make more people show up. I don't know how it works.
Okay.
So let us know not only where you are, but also comment and say what page you're watching on, so we have a sense of that. And also, if you have questions, make sure you ask, in the comments, because we have this wonderful little app that shows us all the comments on all of the pages. And also, if you want to join us on screen, you can go to join.hexoffenders.live, and that address is actually on the screen. So if you go to that, you can't click it on the screen from what I don't think you can click it. But if you type it into a browser, excuse me, if you type it into a browser, you can give it your name, and we can bring you on the screen via your webcam or your microphone. I mean, if you don't have a camera, I think we can still hear you. You just have to make sure that you turn off any show you have playing, because if you have audio coming out of our show, it's going to feed back into you talking to us. Oh, cool. So all sorts of people coming on from everywhere, from Tennessee. We got people from Detroit. There was somebody in there from like Cambodia.
No, it was Malaysia.
Oh, same thing. No, so anyway, because we're streaming to some platform called YouNow. Like this restream goes to everywhere.
Uh-huh.
And so we've got people like in tiki huts in Cambodia that are probably watching us, and they want to buy some candles from us. Okay.
There's Maine, New Orleans.
Maine, New Orleans.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
Great.
good. It's wonderful that folks are tuning in. We greatly appreciate it.
Don't know if you caught Covendom with Brian and Levi, which is amazing. We have 2 shows on our Hex Education Network channel on YouTube and around the Facebook universe and some tiki hut in Korea. And it's, they need candles too. Anyway, so our topic this evening is walking your magical talk. What does that mean to you?
Well, a lot of times what you find is you find people that they have a lot of like theory, they have a lot of book knowledge, and they love to pontificate on this, that, or the other. But when it comes to actually putting that into practical application, in other words, actually doing what you're talking about, they love to talk about like, how, I'm a witch, or, I'm a conjure person, or I'm this, that, or the other. I'm a vaudouisan, whatever. Saying you're this, that, or the other is, simply, it's nothing but talk. Doing it actually enables you to, walk the path.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think sometimes too, and I put that in the description.
Salam alaikum, Candelo.
Oh, hello. I don't know what the hell you just said. You're speaking in Chinese. He's trying to communicate with. No, because we're on that you now, and I think it's somewhere in like Korea or Vietnam or something. So he's trying to communicate. So anyway, Candelo, you got a webcam. You got to get your ass on here. It's join.hexoffenders.live. He's afraid of coming on. Thinks I'm going to say something awful or something. You never know. I might. Never know.
Indeed, but going back to the point.
So I think when you're talking about walking your talk, there's the critical side of it that we all get really annoyed. We get really annoyed with people who don't who do what they say they're doing. But I think there's the other side of it where I'm just going to bring up the little thing that says rendezvous dashboard to see if there is anybody in there, because I'm still kind of new to this restream thing. Anyway, so here's the thing. I think we all fall into that at times. Those periods where, I don't know how many of them you've had, but I've certainly had them over the years where you're just not practicing as much as you should, and you feel like, okay, you're still kind of stuck with this identity of what you are. I've been a witch or warlock, whatever, for 30 years, but there's been those moments where, for months I'm not really sticking to things, but everybody's still expecting it because that's how they see me. So I feel like I'm not living up to that, and I think there's times when we don't always walk our talk.
Well, in some ways, I'll agree with that. But what I will say with regard to that is that you are, you are what you are, and so whether or not you're lighting a candle every single day doesn't mean that you're not what you are. You have done the work to become, to be who you are. So that still is there. There are always seasons that change, when things become dry or things, become overwhelming. And, everybody goes through, at various moments in their life, like, crisis of faith, where they begin to like doubt what they're doing, or they begin to doubt who they are, or doubt the work that they have done, and that sort of thing. So when you get right down to it, it's not that you're not that individual, but it's more so that, you're going through a moment, but that moment does not essentially take away what is already in the core of your own being.
Oh, I get it, and I just realized something terrible. So these connections that you can make to bring people on the screen, they expire. And so therefore, that whole thing where I created this join.hexoffenders.live, I thought that would be such a great idea. Except because these little connections expire.
Thank you, Vani. Mm-hmm.
I cannot use them. And this really fucking sucks. So I don't know what I'm going to do here. Let me see. I'm going to take it off for one. Let me see. Minus. Okay, no more little URL. If you want to come on screen over in Korea, you're going to come on the screen, and you tell us, and we put on the chat, or we private message you with URL.
So stupid.
No, I'm really aggravated that you can't. So there's no fucking saving. That's so annoying. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, anyway, if somebody does want to come on the screen, I think it'd be funny if Candelo came on the screen. You want to. You're going to bring. I want you to do something with a live chicken on the screen.
Oh, is that right? Like what?
Can you do that on TV? Like, can you bring your little thing there?
Just put a live chicken up your boogina?
Yes,
I can.
I don't want to say what it's called because I don't know if you're not supposed to say.
Don't say it.
Whatever Azealia Banks keeps in her closet.
I don't know what the hell that is, but...
Hoochie
Yeah.
coochie. Anyhow, I'm reading as a bit of a racist. Well, it isn't the worst thing I've ever been called. Anyway, I used to host karaoke in a Chinese restaurant, and I would get up there and do those accents, and they loved it. They used to throw ice and spoons and things at me, and we'd get into super soaker fights.
Anyhow, if while we're doing the show, if anybody has any questions or anything like that with regard to the show or what we're doing, what the topic is, et cetera, just feel free to type it into the message box, and we will definitely get on that.
And also, I don't think we're ready to know that. What are we ready to know? Oh my God! Oh yeah, the Star Search for Drunks. No, I would get up and sing, everybody was kung fu fighting. Can I just say, only in New Orleans, only here in New Orleans, only in New Orleans would I be having to get out of my Uber a block from my house because there was a second line. Here in New Orleans, we have these things called second lines, which are just, let's have a parade today, and they might have had planned it, 5 hours ago.
Sure.
All of us is a huge band, and we're across from, Brian and I live across from a funeral home, and so they have the jazz funerals all the time, which are just, they're celebrating. Little kids are dancing up on caskets and what have you. So anyway, I get out of the Uber, and I'm walking towards the house because I'm stuck behind the second line. The topic is walking the talk, and I was walking my talk home from the Uber. I'll make it relevant somehow. And there's a second line, and wouldn't you know it, the entire brass band is playing Kung Fu Fighting.
Of course.
Like where,
So Vonnie had a question for us. She wants to know how long we've known each other.
How old is Dirt?
Yeah. It's been a long, long time.
God, when did I know I met you in Salem, obviously.
Uh-huh.
It was before.
It was in 2005 was the first time that I met you.
Well, when did we become actual friends? I think
2008.
Okay. Yeah, it's been long. Somewhere between Dirt and Death.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I met you when you were working in, the Scissor Sisters? What was it?
No. Hi, Sandra. Get out of here. So anyway, the topic of the show tonight, because somebody likes to get distracted, is walking the talk. And we have a question there from Tanya, which is, how do you make a stronger connection to spirit? Go ahead.
Well, I think that for me, everybody's going to have their own path, but for me, I've never really walked away completely from my magic. There was a period there during the 90s when Sean used to call me the atheist witch, and I just, I wasn't keeping up as much as I could, but there was always a magical side. Spiritual, that was harder because it's more nebulous. It's harder to really know, well, is it really connecting, and I feel like for me, the word that helps me, or the concept that helps me, is discipline. And the fact that our coven meets every Tuesday, we work with the old gods every Tuesday. We do hermetics and mind exploration and inner work and temple work every Tuesday. So for me, it's the discipline, and I think that's much harder to do alone for me.
All right, and just to add to that, I believe that making a good connection to the spirit is something that begins with establishing a strong and a good foundation. And of course, anybody who knows me knows exactly where I'm about to go with this. When it comes to making a connection to spirit as a whole, if you have a foundation, particularly in my opinion, for me, an ancestral foundation, what that does is that opens up the doors to everything else. As you begin to develop that relationship with your ancestors, and as you begin to move forward in that work with your ancestors, understanding, learning, and knowing what ends up happening is you end up becoming more sensitive to the spirit. The revelations that come to you in other ways and come to you in stronger ways. And what ends up happening on top of that is that doors for spiritual paths, spiritual traditions and such begin to open as you begin to be chosen for where you're supposed to be going, what path you're supposed to be taking, how that's supposed to happen. But it's also having the understanding that, you know, when you come into this and you come into it understanding that having that foundation brings you to a place of strength, and it also brings you to a place of opportunity, then typically you don't stray away from that. Some people may have, and some people may not have. I mean, everybody is different. Everybody is, you know, unique in their own way, and they do things how they're going to do it. I'm speaking just for myself. It's not something that you stray away from, but it's something that you move towards, because the stronger the foundation, the stronger the platform, the more that you can withstand, the stronger you become. And when things begin to, you know, turn to shit or things begin to go bad, that foundation is already there that can carry you through that, bring you through to the other side of whatever it may be that's going on. And at the same point in time, point the direction for where you're supposed to continue to go.
Sorry, somebody just said that they lost us on YouTube. Are we still, is anybody seeing us on YouTube? You might want to reload. Oh, God.
Morgan, if you could elaborate just a little. You asked about what about initiations. What would you like to know with regard to that? Are you referring to like initiations and the connection to spirit with them? I'm just trying to figure that out.
Well, while she's formulating that, White Hawk Potter had a question. Hold on, I'm trying to see if we're still on YouTube, because somebody said we weren't, and now I'm like, oh, like, so White Hawk asked, what if you're on two paths, such as Kabbalah and Conjure?
Okay, what about that?
Well, how do you stay, I guess, connected? I don't.
Well, the thing is that when it comes to somebody's spiritual traditions, I will tell anybody, everyone has to work out their own salvation. My thing is that when it comes to spiritual paths and spiritual traditions, if you're in two traditions that directly conflict with one another, that's probably going to become an issue at some point.
What about 13?
Anyway,
they shop at Gods or Us.
Anyway, the thing is that when it comes to spiritual traditions and such, if they conflict with one another, again, that's probably going to create some sort of an issue. The other thing is that I will tell you, like for me personally, I'm a traditionalist. So do I believe in, putting a dash of salt and, some paprika and, some pepper and then, throwing all this stuff together? No, I do not. I think that spiritual traditions are what they are, and they need to be kept that way. And it's also understanding that it is the tradition that molds you. It is not you who mold the tradition. You see.
Morgan expanded on her question. Do you consider initiations a key foundation to magical practice?
Initiations have a very, very potent value to them, because an initiation, it is the opening of a door. And it does, in and of itself, have a foundation to magical practice, absolutely. However, when it comes right down to it, as I was saying before, if you have an ancestral foundation, then that is, in my opinion, the strongest foundation that one can have. Because what you have is you have an entire army or an entire court of spirits that are already there for you, that's there to guide you and to direct you into doing not only what you're supposed to be doing, but also opening up doors and opportunities for you so that you can grow. Because remember, it is you who is the one who is now blazing the trail of the ancestors. So, of course, they're going to be there to try to push that forward.
Well, I just want to say to that, because there's another question that's coming in now I'm going to want to address. Mm-hmm. And that is, I think for the bulk of my witchcraft career, as it were, I'd probably say that initiation wasn't required, but now that I have it, I think it so empowers your magic that even though, we love to separate religion, spirit, magic, they're not separate. So much of that toolbox overlaps. So do I feel like my magic works so much better because I was initiated? Absolutely. So, I think if I could turn the clock back 30 years, I might have done things a little differently. Now,
that's interesting.
This is so rough because it shows multiple copies of everyone's comments, so we got to scroll back to see some of the questions. Lisa Rowe asks, what do you guys think about people in the African American community that say that white people can't practice hoodoo? I'll let you take that.
First of all, when it comes to the practice of hoodoo or conjure, the most important thing is the foundation of where it came from, having the understanding of where it came from. Conjure or hoodoo came to this country from the Congo. It came on the backs of the slaves that were brought here from the Congo.
Now that's a Zulu, right?
Shut up.
Private joke.
Anyway, understanding those ancestors.
How quaint. Even the rabble.
Sorry.
Understanding the sacrifice that those ancestors made and what the birthing of that was, because whether people understand this or not, conjure or hoodoo was birthed out of a need. It was a need to answer a condition. It was a need to overcome an oppression. That's where it came from. And when it comes right down to it, and this I will say about any tradition, if the spirits of that tradition call you, then who is anybody to say otherwise? If it is like in the voodoo, you hear the same thing, but if the Loa call you to be in the voodoo, then who is anybody else to say anything different? Because at the end of the day, if you're a servant of the spirit, you're a servant of the spirit, the end.
Well, not for nothing. When I went to speak to your own Mambo about this, because there was a big, hooty-dooty going on, with Priestess Miriam being called our token, all the crazy crap that was driving me nuts. She separated it in a very different way. I went in and I said, well, there's this huge debate. She's actually from Haiti. What part, Jacques Mel?
Originally, she's from Pétionville.
Well, anywho, wealthy, comes from a wealthy family, makes the most beautiful clothes. And I remember asking her, how do you feel about this? Certain African Americans are reclaiming voodoo and now looking at the fact that there are a lot of white people doing it and they don't like it. And she went on about if they are not born in Haiti, there's a whole separation there.
Sure.
She's not separating black and white in America, because I had told her that I read, one person said that African Americans get a different initiation in Haiti than white Americans. And I asked her if that was the case, and she said no. And she said that what they separate is if you're not, she said there are powers they will never get and spirits they will never have because they were not born in Haiti. And that was how she separated it to me.
And there are there are societés or societies in Haiti that you must be, and you can be Haitian, but if you're born in the United States and not born in Haiti, you won't get it. Like that's the only thing that's there, and so. But again, well,
I think part of that is that African Americans and white Americans, quite often, especially like me who have, 20 different ancestries. I got French, I got Portuguese, I got this and that in America, the only nationalism you really see out there is this whole racist white nationalism. We don't have that same nationalism in America that someone in Haiti will have. You'll hear an African descent person in Haiti say, "You are not Haitian," go away. And it's like, we don't, whether we're black or white here in America, we don't relate to that as much because we're the great melting pot. Even white, I think African Americans have this harder because of slavery. They don't always know, their nation in Africa of origin. But even white people here in America, you don't know, I'm so many different things that I don't really identify with any of them. I have French, I have Portuguese, Italian, Irish, English. It's like, how do I really relate to the nationality of any of those things when I'm all of them? I just don't. But so sitting there and listening to that perspective from Marie, who is African descent from Haiti, having not only not really a racial perspective, but a nationalist perspective. You're not Haitian, go away, or ethnic.
Right, but the thing is that at the end of the day, what it boils down to, has the Spirit chosen you, in that tradition, or have they not? And so
I want to clarify something. There's so many. It's hard to go up with the questions because it's posting so many copies of every one. But Tanya made a very good point. Black Americans are not reclaiming voodoo. It has always been our birthright. Well, I don't deny it's a birthright. What I meant by that was, here in New Orleans, and I know Sen Moise can attest to this, 20 years ago when I first started coming, there were very few people of African descent showing up at public voodoo rituals. I remember we were filming one, and my camera guy didn't know much about it, and he's like, "Why is it all white people?" It's in the last 5 to 10 years that a lot of African Americans are, I guess, claiming their birthright. I can clarify that. But that's what I meant by that, is that I remember when Brian first moved here, he was working at Hot Topic, and one of his black coworkers, he was like, "I want to learn about voodoo." He said, "Oh, black people don't do that here." And in a lot of ways, they didn't. It's in the last 5 to 10 years that this claiming has come. So I guess when I say reclaiming, I meant it was always yours. It's a nuanced word, but, I don't mean it wasn't yours ever. It's just something that you just didn't see a lot of interest here. And now that you're seeing it, naturally you're getting some people that will say, well, now that we're claiming this, white people shouldn't do it. I don't know. I'm of the opinion that if it works for me, I'm going to do it. I mean, at one point we'll tackle the whole cultural appropriation topic, not this episode, but I mean, I can just tell you, if it magically works for me, I'm taking it. If that offends you, I don't care. I just don't. At the end of the day, I'm going to use what makes my life better, and I encourage everyone to do the same. Now, I'm going to try to scroll. I'm not sure what to do because it literally puts so many versions of everybody's question that we really have to scroll up. I think I'm going to go further down here. We might miss some questions because it does.
If we do, it's unintentional.
Because it shows fucking 10 versions. Do you feel that this is why traditions die, due to the fact that they are not allowed to be shared with others outside someone's nationality?
Personally, I do not. Because there are traditions that are very, very old that, are still around. But because people aren't speaking about it, and in the age that we currently live in, like the age of social media and such, because people aren't speaking about it, there may be, an assumption that something is dead. But that certainly doesn't mean that it is. I mean, like I was saying before, with some of the societés down in Haiti, like the Bizango or the Macaya, to where you must be Haitian born on the island in order for any of that to and they're very serious about that. But they're very much, still around and still, doing, what they do. And, I happen to know, a few Bokor. Bokor is...
I met one in Salem.
No, you didn't.
Said he was.
Yeah. Anyhow, and so, we talk and stuff, whenever I'm down in Haiti, and one of the things is that there are secrets that they want to keep, and they want to keep them inside of a particular group. And in this case, Haitian born and raised on the island. And so what they're going to do is they're going to preserve their tradition in that manner. Do I fault anyone for that? Absolutely not.
But I think
I
think you're rare. I think a lot of Americans of all colors have a certain entitlement of things in other cultures that, we do sort of, me included. I'm like, hey, it works, I want to take it. But you do want to try to respect those cultures that are saying, well, if you're not on this island, go away. Morgan makes a wonderful comment here. Morgan Lilith Grace Bowengardner, hoping I'm saying it right. Egyptian paganism is a huge influence on Western Hermetic tradition. I know my husband Brian talks about this. And also on Yoruban magic, including voodoo. Are we all accessing basically the same forces with different cultural biases?
What say you on that?
I do think that each of these cultures is sort of like that show American Gods and the book American Gods. I think that the different energies take on different forms based on our own cultural interpretation. So in some way, we're creating the gods. And so while, that great power behind all the powers may be the same universal universal mind, whatever you want to call it, God, the Ein Sofer, if I'm saying it correctly, the Kabbalistic limitless light beyond all. I don't know. But I think that once we start to culturally interpret it, we are creating lenses that we've created as humans that may actually somewhat impact the gods. Do we create the gods or do the gods create us? I mean, it's a very ancient debate that's never been solved. And I wonder, if we do help create the gods we serve. I mean, at some point, I always loved the way Laurie Cabot described it in that humans are not taught to interpret pure energy. So we give Isis a crown and wings, and we interpret her through, what we can handle. Now, Vani asks, how do you handle finding out someone is not walking the path they talk, such as offering pay for classes they got free off the internet? For classes, sorry. If they're charging money, if they just learned it off.
With that, anybody that when you're talking about these things, and at least in my opinion, you are going to know them by their fruit. You're going to know them by the fruit that they produce. If somebody is just doing a whole lot of talking and a whole lot of nothing else, that is going to come out in one way or the other, because what you're going to see is, you're going to see a lack of what substance should be there, or, okay, well, you're not, you're going to teach a class that you printed off of the internet. Well, I mean, it's not really that difficult to, for that to kind of come to the surface and such. But just in a nutshell, like people, who are not walking the talk that they're doing, that's going to come out by the fruits that they either have or do not. And by that I'm talking about as the person, as a whole, what's going on with them, what's their condition, those sorts of things.
Well, is it Tanya said, voodoo is not the only ATR, true, but if you believe Africa is the original motherland, we can be called to many traditions. Now, I think that's true, but I also think, just like how the Celts might have practiced when they were in Hallstatt, Austria, versus what later came to be in Britain. You have to accommodate for that. In other words, just as there are people from Africa that probably look at Haitian voodoo and be like, well, that's really different. Well, so
Absolutely.
too would the Haitians be like, well, you're not one of us. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think you have to, does the fact that, okay, let me ask it a different way. Does the fact that I am of European descent give me access to every tradition that was ever European? Like I said, bearing in mind, I'm going to take whatever I want. But if you're going from that, let's respect culture perspective, does my being of European descent give me access to every tradition that was ever European? I wonder. Well, you get where I'm going with
No,
that.
I was just... I saw
Tanya's
something on
argument seems to be that, if we're of African descent, it gives us access to, all these various traditions. Well, does it? I don't know.
Well,
there's an American perspective here.
Well, you're right. There is. But the other thing, with what Tanya is saying, in my opinion, and it goes back to, what is it, that the foundation of your ancestors, where they, came from, the things that they did, the things that they, were involved in. And of course, voodoo is not the only, ATR. Voodoo is not the only thing. It's just the example that I use because I'm an Unga. That's the thing with that. But I think what Tanya is saying, I think what Tanya is getting at is that, based on an ancestral foundation, it's a key to a door that can be opened if it is chosen to be opened.
But I'm 0.25% pygmy.
There you go.
And if I go there,
exactly,
they ain't gonna have nothing in my size. The point is, I might be 0.25% pygmy, but I ain't a fucking pygmy. So you can say, oh, my ancestry, my DNA, my this, my that. But if you're not Haitian, and they say you have to be Haitian for a particular thing, well then, are you being arrogant? And I would say yes, but then it might sound a little hypocritical because, I say, well, yeah, if this magic works, I'm going to take it, but then I'm very arrogant, and admittedly so. I love this Morgan person. She says, no culture exists in a vacuum, but let me scroll down. She said that, where is it? There's so many repeats of the chat, but she wrote, success is your proof, which I guess Aleister Crowley said, and that would be an answer to when you take in these classes from people, if you want to know if they're legit. Mm-hmm. Well, I think the ultimate barometer is going to be your success. When I took Witchcraft 1 with Laurie Cabot, I was able to diagnose medical illnesses at a distance without knowing anything but the age, name, sex, and location. We were able to go through that class and prove our own psychic ability, even if we didn't think we had it going in. When I became initiated into the New Orleans Coven, my magic instantly started working better. I can only go by what experiences, and Morgan is right.
Well, experience is something that definitely, shapes our opinions, sometimes shapes our values. And, there's something absolutely to be said about that. And, and it's true. The proof is always in the pudding, is it not?
Well, right. At the end of the day, do I think we should respect these traditions? Yes. I might be a little bit excessively humorous when it comes to my ideas on appropriation. And it's sort of like this. I've always said it to you. If you were in a Tibetan temple and they told you, if you look at this mandala for longer than 20 minutes, you're going to live forever and have eternal use. And you're on a walking tour and the monk tells you this, well, you get lost from the tour, you wind up back in the room with that mandala, and if you look at it, and that monk said, well, it's only for us monks, you're not part of our culture. But that either way it's going to work for you, and you look at that mandala for 20 minutes and you're going to have eternal youth in life. Who the fuck ain't going to look at it? Give me a break. Everybody will. Okay, I'll give you maybe one person in a bazillion ain't going to look. You're going to look. If something is guaranteed to work powerfully enough for you, and praying to that particular spirit, even if it's not your culture, is going to get you $1 million check, and you're living in poverty, you're gonna fucking do it. Like that. That's all I'm just saying. We should try as much as possible to respect these cultural boundaries, but know that, at the end of the day, we're all serving ourselves. We're all going to do things that benefit those around us and ourselves and the people in our lives and that we care about. So I think, you've got to keep that in mind. Somebody said, in Umbanda have many orishas. Is Hoodoo similar? I think this person's from Brazil, so it might be why it's a bit.
Yeah. Hoodoo is essentially, it is magic work that has an ancestral foundation. Whereas like Umbanda is more of a complete, if you will, just for lack of a better term, or a spiritual path in its entirety. Conjure essentially is magic work that is done on the foundation of our ancestors.
Well, I think that I know very little about the latter. Angela Whitehawk, now this is interesting. This is Carol, I can never remember what name she's using this week. Carol Crow on Facebook, she does genealogy magic, and Whitehawk asked, how do you know if it's your culture until you do your genealogy? Well, even then you don't. I mean, I traced, our family back. I actually didn't get any further than my grandfather did, but what he took years to do, I did in a month on Ancestry. But, if one woman in the entire chain of your genealogical tree cheated, then the whole fucking thing's wrong. So, now you've got DNA. Mm-hmm. So you've got your two different kinds of ancestry. You do have a claim on genealogy, even if that descent is not real and somebody cheated, mm-hmm. because it's that egregore that's passed on through the family of, we've always done this. So even if there was a break there and one of the women cheated and, that grandfather's not really the grandfather, you still, I think, have a claim to that psychically in the egregore. But the DNA also is a factor, but how much of one? I mean, if I go to where the pygmies are they going to accept me? If I go to Universal Studios and I want to get on that pterodactyl ride for which I am too tall, if I tell them I am a pygmy, are they going to let me on the ride? No. I'm just saying. Morgan says, what works and the basics are essentially the same in every tradition. Abramelin is very similar to Vision Quest.
Say huh? Well, the thing is that no matter what it is that you do, no matter what it is that, whatever tradition you are, if you're eclectic or whatever, at the end of the day with all that, you have to work out your own salvation in that. If you're involved in a tradition, then learn the damn tradition.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with that.
If you have if you're trying to work magic, well then learn to work magic. It's not just about talking about something, but mm-hmm. it's about actually carrying out what you're talking about, doing what you're talking about. Because why? What's the purpose of it? Why? We do this work, why? To facilitate change, to bring change in conditions, to bring about something that was not there before. And so, again, I go back to what I said, Devani, you will know them by their fruits. And this whole thing is about, if you're pontificating or you're going to say this, that, or the other, but you're not doing anything with it, then essentially what you have is somebody who, A, writes a check with their mouth that their ass can't cash, and B, is somebody who's filled with hot air. The end. That's it.
Karen and Bear makes an interesting point. If the brick dust works, I'm going to use it. And so, bringing that back to walking the talk, sometimes you don't always have the chance to learn every little thing. And so there will be those exceptions where you just need to take a chance. It's sort of like, okay, if I've got demons coming into the house that physically manifested, and I got this bowl of brick dust, mm-hmm. and you said to me, this shit will ward off anything, but I'm not hoodoo, and I know nothing about it, but it's already, been blessed to work, and maybe I'm sort of dipping into something I shouldn't be doing, but the fucking demons are right outside the window, and they're about to come in the house, and the only thing I have within hand's distance is this bowl of fucking brick dust. It's getting sprinkled around. Now, if it doesn't work for whatever reason, well, then fuck me, but, if it does, I guess my point is, are there ever, in the realm of where we should always be striving to know as much as we can about magic, are there times where those dabblings or taking a chance because you don't quite know it yet but you need it, is that ever appropriate?
Well, when it comes down to that, I mean, if there is, what is that saying? They say desperate times call for desperate measures. And so, I mean, for me, if I had, something that I didn't know, much about, like, whatever, and somebody said this is going to, send demons away, and, demons are knocking, trying to beat down my door. Well, of course, I'm going to, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do that and every single thing else that needs to be done to make sure that they don't come through the door.
Right, and that's all. And that's all I'm saying is that I think sometimes, there's Tanya. Is it? How do you say your friend's name?
That's my god kid. Her name is Tanya.
Okay. Well, she said have the utmost respect for tradition and culture. Absolutely, but there's two sides. There's two sides to this. In other words, we can sit here and say, you know what, people. If you're going to go out there and talk the talk, you should walk the talk. But on the other end of the coin, it is sort of irritating that there's those pontificators that are really sitting up there, which I don't think is us. But the types, with the ones with the 13 religions, and they're experts on all of them. And they're out there on every message board criticizing everybody that's trying. And I do think you got to give people credit. Maybe they didn't get initiated. Maybe they are doing it a little haphazardly, but they're trying to learn. We were there when I was at it.
The thing is,
trying anything when I was young.
Again, I go back to, what I say all the time is that you have to work out your own salvation. And so you're going to, do what you have to, do, what is necessary not only for your own growth, but to bring your own strength, to bring your own foundation that's there. You should always be doing that. Never not be doing that.
I think Charles Porterfield here really puts it into perspective. There is a difference between utility, quote unquote, and presenting oneself as an authority.
Sure.
And I think that really kind of puts that definition of nuance of what we're kind of talking, the spectrum of what we're talking about. In other words, if you're taking a chance to use it for yourself, well, great. You're trying. Maybe you're no expert. Maybe you need to learn a little more, but you took a chance. But you shouldn't be out there presenting yourself, as the expert of, Erzuli's. Is Erzuli from the Congo? I just want to ask. He won't answer me. Didn't you say the word conjure comes from the Congo?
Keep going.
I am stirring the cauldron. Candelo wants the other link for the show. I'm going to give him that. Candelo, talk about something, Kirk, while I give him this. Say something.
Well, I'm just looking at something that Charles just said, which absolutely is perfect. And he said, no one is saying don't take an aspirin for a headache. Just don't publicly present yourself as a pharmacist because you took the aspirin that helps with the headache.
Exactly.
Which, Charles, that is absolutely perfect. And that's the thing. It's understanding, it's understanding that, what, if this is something that that I need, but then also what happens whenever you find out that it worked? What does that do?
Candela,
that kind of opens up a door for you to be able to learn more, or to seek it out, or whatever.
I sent Candelo. I sent you the link on Facebook Messenger if you want to video on. So I don't know. I think that, now that's brilliant, by the way. I don't know who this, I feel like I know. Are you on my friends list, Charles Porterfield? I don't know, but your name sounds very familiar.
Yeah, Charles is a very good friend of mine.
Okay, well, he's brilliant, but here's the thing. We know, I mean, it's such a great metaphor he used because we know so many of these fucking instant pharmacists out there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you know how most of us do it? Is therapy. I mean, I did this when I first started seeing it. No, you know what I'm talking about. Like, somebody starts seeing a fucking therapist who, like, I can't see you, but raise your hand if you've known this person or been this person. I've known and been this person. You know, you start seeing a shrink, you come home and like, honey, you know, if you start, you know, deep breathing and counting to 10, you know, like, we're constantly sharing what we learn in the therapist couch, you know, like we've actually had some fucking degree in it. And, you know, you see that magically all the time. Scylla Kavanaugh says, so do you believe that one can be born naturally knowing magic of the old ways from your culture, be it through the bloodline or by knowing from a past life?
Oh, I can.
I'm very careful with that because...
I'm going to say this. Here's what I'm going to say with regard to that. Because something similar to that is actually a question that's been posed a lot. And I'm going to say that when, if somebody is born with like that gift, and I do call it a gift, if somebody is born with that gift, they can have that gift, but that does not mean that they know how to use that gift. Here's the thing, is that somebody can be born to be a doctor, but until they go to medical school, they ain't going to be a damn doctor. Somebody can be born to be a farmer, but then until they learn how to till the soil, they're not going to be a farmer. Somebody can be born with magical gifts there, but until that there is training and understanding of, you know, like as you put it, like those old ways or what have you, or, you know, the even like, you know, the cultures, because magic is ingrained in culture as well. Until there's like training and understanding of what that is, I don't believe that somebody can just like, be, popped out of the vagina and all of a sudden, they're instant Merlin.
So true. So Vonnie, it's hard to hear me, I guess, if I turn to say something to you, so I'm not going to turn
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to side-eye you. I'm going to give you the side-eye. Wait a minute, hold on here. This is so, I wish they'd fix this chat. It literally shows like 6 of every comment, so I have to like really scroll up. Morgan Lilith Grace Bone Gardner asks, can anyone practice magic and get results? Of course. To some degree or another, how many results you get is going to depend on how much work you put into it. I mean, I think that, that when you talk about the evil eye, that's really just people's, harmful thoughts towards you taking effect. So anyone can do it even without knowing it. But the efficacy or the quality of the results you get is going to be dependent on the work you put in.
Yeah, but is that result, as you're talking about with the evil eye, is that result based on, somebody thinks that you're throwing it at him?
Well,
and
I think
not because that there's a magical bone or that practice of magic that is there. Because quite frankly, I don't believe that. I have to disagree with that, and I disagree with that because I don't think that anybody can just all of a sudden practice magic and and then get results. Because I believe, and this is for me, I believe that anybody can worship, but not everybody can work. Just like, and I go back to, to this with like, if everybody was born to be a doctor, in the world, we'd all die. If everybody, because there'd be no farmers. If everybody was born to be a farmer, we'd all die because there'd be no doctors, et cetera, et cetera. And so,
where do you think magical, you don't think there's something in us that allows us to do magic?
No, that's not exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. I might be misunderstanding.
What I'm saying is that is everybody called to be a magical worker? I do not believe that they are.
Well, no, I think everyone has magic. I think
everyone has. I think everybody, of course, has a spirit, and I think that everyone is there.
Use the example of the lottery, like why magical people don't have a corner on the lottery. Because everyone is projecting for the same result. It's sort of like those idiots that did the Trump curse. And they put this out there, and instead of being quiet about it, they made it a big thing. So then all the born-again Christians that love Trump came out and prayed for him. And that's magic. That is a form of magic. And I'm sorry. If you're 10, goofy fucking witches, vegans in D.C., you know who I'm talking about, these are idiots. If there's 10 of you in D.C. and you all come and going, let's stab your voodoo doll with Trump. And there's a fucking mega church of 20,000 Christians in one room in Texas, all counter praying to your little 10-person coven whatever. Guess who's going to win? I'm just saying. I mean, maybe those people don't have magical training, but they have the power of mind and faith, and that can be a form of magic. So I'm just saying, it's like, I do think that even if we don't have...
Amen, Charles. Amen.
I do think if we... well, that's true. I do think that even if you aren't necessarily trained, your thoughts still have power, is really what I'm saying. Do they manifest in some technical way? It's sort of like singing, like Charles Porterfield said, just because, everyone can make art, not everyone should, but, some people say not everyone can sing. My voice teacher could make a singer out of anyone. And she could have made a singer out of anyone. It's a matter of training and learning to understand it. But, anyone can sit there and sing along to Happy Birthday and they might sound half okay. That doesn't mean they're trained magic. But I think when you're talking about something like the evil eye, what that really means is our thoughts do have an impact on the world. And even if we're not magically trained, I do think we should still consider what we're putting out there energy-wise.
Of course. Absolutely. And I agree wholeheartedly that you should... No, we don't. No, I'm just kidding.
What do you mean? Shut up. Samara says we love when you sing. Those fingers in my hair that slide, come hither, stare. That strips my conscience bare, it's witchcraft. So Amber says that people have forgotten the last line of the witch's pyramid to be silent. I'm all for people that want to hex this asshole of a president. I just don't think you should be public about it. And I think in the sense of walking the talk, it's like, what do we want to create in the world as who we are as magical people?
Sure.
Are we trying to put out there that we're these vindictive people? It's, I think that justice matters, but I think when you're talking about magic as a form of justice versus a form of revenge, there's a certain dignity that goes along with that. It's sort of like the difference between Obama's presidency and Bill Clinton or Trump. Now, granted, Trump's way worse, but both of them, I mean, come on, they cheapened the Oval Office. Obama brought a dignity to that. And that's, when you're talking about magic, it's like the difference, when you can tell when somebody's just out there doing those curses in a revengeful, in a vengeful state, versus this person's a threat to the world. And we have to take that seriously. So let's go quietly to our spaces and do the magic, not brag all over. I can't stand those people.
Right.
That I curse Trump. It's so ridiculous.
Well, and what does it do? Does it add to what you're doing, or does it take away? Realistically, my opinion, of course, it takes away.
Anytime you... Here we fucking go. Leave it to Laura Leonard. How about sharing all your problems, illnesses, financial state on social media? Now, I gave Candelo the link, and it says he saw it, but he hasn't come on the thing yet. So I don't know, Candelo, but I'm waiting for you.
So what say you to that?
Well, I think what Laura says here, how about sharing all your problems, illnesses, financial state on social media? That's very similar to the process of talking about your magic before it happens. In that, and it sort of goes back to what I said about the evil eye, that even though you may not be magically trained, every word you say, every thought you think has its own charge, even if you have no training. Oh, okay. Give me a second, Candelo, after I answer this question. So even if you have no training, your words, your thoughts, they have power. So does everybody else's. Mm-hmm. And not everybody's your fucking friend. Take it from the person that probably has thousands of enemies. If I were to go out there and put blood in the water, why would I do that? Because everyone that hates me is going to sit there and go hee 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 and try to add their energy to that malaise. So let me tell you, when you're out there going, it's why you'll never see me do those fucking GoFundMe. I did a GoFundMe for a Segway as a joke, and I know there are times if your house burned down, it's okay. I'm just a little reticent because I know if I put any weakness out there, that whatever energy my haters can create to exacerbate that weakness, they will do. And on a much smaller scale, let me tell you, people, you put your bad fucking business out there on the, airing the dirty laundry, there's gonna be people that you think are your friends that are sitting there cheering that downfall and adding to it energy-wise. So we're gonna see how this works here, because I am trying something new.
There he
There he is. Let me put him in there. Hold on. I'm gonna put him in the queue here. Do. Okay. Let me see here. All right, are you with us, Candelo?
I guess I am with you. You kind of bamboozled me because I was just asking for a link where I could actually see you guys and see you in a little link, not actually come on to the damn thing over here. So I guess you bamboozled me.
Well, I'm known for that.
And I can't see you guys talk or anything. You guys kind of froze, but I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay.
That's odd.
Well, come on, you got to add something to the discussion here.
Well, God, you guys have gone from one thing to the next. But honestly, if you're going to find magic inside of a book, you might as well buy 1,000 books. Okay? Why? Because one person's medicine is another person's poison. Okay? Guys, let's come to the conclusion that all these books, yours, mine, everyone's written, is written in our perspective and whatever our spirits told us would work for us. Mm-hmm. All right? It might work for Joe Smo. It just might. It just might. But people have to come to the realization that they need to come to their fucking elders. Okay? You know what? You want to learn fucking magic? Go over to New Orleans and go sit down with fucking Christian Day for a while. Go and sit down and speak
the wrong way.
Well, go over and speak to Zen Moise. Okay? Let's find out what it is that's going to work for you.
And it's different for everybody, I think.
And it's different for everyone. Exactly.
What works for me might not work for you. And I think that is a piece that many miss, that, it's weird. Do you have I think I might be getting a little of your feedback, but it's not.
Well, I just turned off the other thing that we were on, so we should be fine now.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's a little better. And I think that is, there's no one size fits all in magic. I think that, it's sort of like when, I remember going on your friend Michael Carell's show there to talk about the big controversy when, I was saying, I don't think animal sacrifice is part of witchcraft. And it really upset some people because they were like, as though I somehow had this overarching problem when my best friend sitting next to me has probably killed more chickens than Colonel Sanders. It's like, there's a difference between what you think personally works for you magically, what you think about a thing, what I think witchcraft is versus how you do what you do.
Right, exactly. But first thing is first, what we call our spiritual system, we don't call it witchcraft. So, that's a purely European concept. It really is.
Yep.
Okay. So if you say that there's no there's no animal sacrifice in witchcraft, I would have to agree with you.
Well,
because that is what you practice.
There's also, here's the thing. There were people that, the Bokor that I met in Salem.
You met a Bokor in Salem?
No.
Okay. Was he? Well, let me ask you a quick question. Was he Haitian?
No. He said he was a Bokor, though.
Was he Haitian?
No.
Well, he's not a fucking Bokor. Okay, go ahead. Let's go somewhere else.
Well, anyway, that's it. No, but he got very upset with me, and he was the one that basically said, well, Christians are racist, and there's this South American witchcraft tradition of blah, 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 blah. And my point was a bit contentious for some, but this is what I said. Even though witchcraft is a very broad term, even in European senses, and thanks to the anthropologists, it's become this umbrella term for baneful magic anywhere in the world, just like shaman has been taken from Mongolian people to mean all sorts of things. At the end of the day, some white colonialist put a gun to a person's head and said, "You're not a curandero, you're a witch." And so those people, like our friend Crystal Madison, her family will use the word witch at times, and I don't tell her, "Oh, you can't use it," because some white colonialist pointed a gun at her ancestor and said, "You're not a curandero, you're not a brujo, you're a witch." And so, well, I'm not going to tell those people that they can't use the word, but what I'm going to say is, if I get the TV camera in my face, it's not my obligation to create the narrative for all these other groups that use the word witch. So, if there's some group out there that uses the word witch and sacrifices people, I'm not putting that. I have to put my version, and I think we all do that. Like if you're the one in front of the camera and they're asking you what voodoo is, you're going to say what it is to you.
Right, and along with that, it's one of those things to where, sometimes it gets to be a lot trying to, if you're trying to like put a handle on what everybody else is doing, you're going to drive yourself nuts. But what you can do,
got to take your own narrative.
Yeah, exactly. You take that narrative and that's what you define is this. Like I've had, people, say like the dumbest shit to me, but I'm like, okay, bless you then. Okay, whatever. I mean, that's you, that's not me. And, quite frankly, some of us are too damn busy to be trying to like police other people's dumb shit. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, let me tell you, if I knew, like if you could guarantee me, you came over, you said, see this chicken, if I do this chicken, there's going to be a check for $1 million. I might give it a shot. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like we all have our, everybody has a price. Everybody has that place where, if someone's about to shoot your mother and the only thing that's going to answer your prayer is Satan, you might call on Satan. We all have that place where, okay, you've reached my boundaries. So to get out there on a high horse, remember when we first met Kirk, there were all those people, and they're still out, let's face it, the three of us are critical people. We have our bugbears and oh my God, I can't believe you. But what bothers me are the ones that's all they do. Like they got something to say about everybody and how they're doing it, but they're never doing the practice themselves. Right. They sit on their couch and they point at everybody doing it wrong. And I have the same advice for all those people, and that is, if you don't like what's being put out there, it's okay to bitch about it, but it makes more sense, even if you're going to bitch about it, also, to write the story, write a book, open a shop, put out podcasts like Candelo has,
right.
And become the voice of authority to counterbalance the bullshit.
Sure.
It's the only real way. I mean, obviously, we all still say, oh, look at that fucking loser. We're all catty bitches. But at the same time, we're, I don't like
to be referred to as a catty hoe, not a bitch.
Yes, indeed.
Well, that's all right. You can call me.
I know where that's coming from.
I'm a catty cunt. I'm a catty cunt. But the thing is, there was a period of time where I was very unhappy with a lot of what was being put out there as witchcraft. And so I stuck myself out. And of course, I got a million haters going, look at her fucking eyeliner or what he's wearing. You know, they all had bitching about me. And it didn't bother me because I was like, well, I'm putting myself out there. And this is the version of witch that I want people to see. And if they don't like my version, do to me what I did to the things I just stick myself out there.
Exactly. So, go ahead.
Have another cherry.
Gentlemen, you have 2 events coming up. So I'm going to be part of one of them, and I will be visiting the other one. I know there's a lot of listeners listening right now because I shared it all over the damn place.
See, he remembers.
What's going on with you guys, and what the fuck are we doing together? What are we doing separate? You know,
Well,
what's
actually,
going on?
I think you've got something coming before ours, right? When is your...
Yeah, in June.
The Conjure Gala. Tell people...
No, that's in November.
That's in November.
Well, what's your June thing?
That is the St. John's Weekend of Conjure here in New Orleans. It's a weekend of classes, a party, some ceremonies, all that good stuff going on. It's going to be St. John's Weekend, which is the 22nd and the 23rd of June, right here in New Orleans. It's going to be at the Hotel Provincial, right here at the French Quarter on Charter Street.
It's a nice hotel.
You know, it's going to be amazing classes. Like I said, that ceremonies. We got tours going on. We got a party going on for everybody. So if you're in New Orleans or you can come down for that, please do. And you can go get tickets at stjohnsweekendofconjure.com.
Okay, and who's going to be presenting there, brother?
Who is going to be present? Well, last time
sorry,
I heard a rumor. I heard a rumor. I heard a rumor that Candelo Cambisa was going to be one of the presenters there.
Okay.
I'll be presenting. Mama Star Cassis will be presenting. My godbrother, Papa Hector, will be there. Ifa Abeyo will be there. Loretta Ledesma will be there.
Oh,
And
right.
it's going to be a good time. We're going to drop a lot of knowledge, a lot of hands-on stuff, and we're going to take it. And, you know, this is one of those things to where you don't leave the way you came.
You're right about that. I left broke last time, and well, the other thing is that's another story.
And I was about to say, you know that's another damn story.
And well used.
In August, we have Hexfest, which is hexfest.com, and we're at about 200 sold. So we're not sold out yet, but it's going at such a rate. Thank you, Catholic protesters. We're way above last year because of those Catholic protesters, you know, everybody in solidarity, or they just want to see the fight. I'm not going to go through every person speaking because there's just so many, but if you go to hexfest.com and you go to the presenters, you'll see them. Candelo, you'll be there as Sen Moise's +1, but you're also on the bill for 2020 Hexfest, which is second week of August always, so you're actually presenting with us next year. And you've got, of course, in October, you'll both be with Crystal Madison at the Festival of Witches, which is that festivalofwitches.com, Crystal?
I believe it is, yeah.
Okay. And hexfest.com.
And that's up in New York.
In Sleepy Hollow.
In Sleepy Hollow, New York. We'll both be there. And then Candelo and I will also both be at the Mile High Conjure Gala, as well as Charles Porterfield, who is in the chat, which is in November. I believe, Candelo, isn't it the 9th and the 10th, I think it is?
Brother, I could barely remember New York. I know that we'll be there. I know that we'll be there. I need cliff notes or something, you know, like the Republicans have these talking clips about all these things. But we are going to be in all these places. We are going to show up and show out. Okay? We're going to show up and show out. We're going to have a good damn time. We're going to teach. We're going to teach. We're going to talk. And after that, we're going to drink and party, baby, because you know how we do it.
Well,
Yes,
something my husband says about these events, you know, when he speaks to the people for the opening ceremonies of Hexfest, he always says, I don't see a witch community. I don't see a pagan community. I don't see a voodoo community. I see a magical community here.
Right.
And I really like that because I think that, even though we all have, our different gods and techniques and practices and ways, that magic, that universal language of power with which we interact with the universe and one another is something that binds us all.
Absolutely.
I just love to see the softer side of you, Christian, because
well, now, I was going to say, now that Sears is going away, someone's going to have a softer.
Yes.
Hey, I do have one. I just, I'm one of those people. You got to just sort of,
Please, whatever you do, don't talk about tigers. As long as you don't talk about tigers.
Come
we're
on.
fine.
It's a shame. I'm not going to specifically single any of these people out. Sometimes you might see me do that on here, but I am going to say that it saddens me when I see people whose magic I actually do respect. And, that sort of inference you made, I respect that person in a certain way, but it disappoints me to see people with such potential and knowledge behind them squandering it in petty jealousies because they don't understand that in this world other people come up the ladder. It's like, I welcome that. When I first came here to New Orleans, I put all the competitors on our flyer so that, they'd know I wasn't trying to, do something weird. And when new businesses come in, like the Nola Rock Company, for example, right. I put them on the flyer because I really want new magical shops in Salem and New Orleans to feel like they're welcomed and that, they're part of the magical work that we're all doing. And so those of us that have been in the game for, all those decades, to get wrapped up in every person coming up the pike as though somehow they're a threat, we end up losing our own way. And I think that's what happened in that instance, really.
Yes.
And it's a shame, because I respect the talent there, I do. And the business, all of that history that is behind that organization that has kind of become mired in all this temporary bullshit, and it really loses the path. And I think that's, when you're talking about walking the talk, which is our topic here, we veered here and there off of, but when you're talking about walking the talk, it's about staying on the path. That you could be at this for 30 years and you might have all the knowledge in the background, but maybe you're straying from the path because you're getting caught up in the ego bullshit and not remembering why you do it.
Right. So, final thoughts, because I gotta pee.
He's got the world's smallest fucking bladder.
So, anyway, when it comes down to walking the talk, basically, what I will say is always be seeking and continuing to reinforce a strong foundation, because it is that foundation that carries you to where you're able to go. It's that foundation that enables you to stand in strength, and also it opens up other opportunities for you to continue to grow, because that's what this is all about. It's always about continual growth, continual learning, continual mastering, not only yourself, but, what you're doing, and most importantly, continual developing and in strengthening relationship with your own spirit.
Absolutely. Yes. And I want to say thank you to Candelo Kimbisa.
Absolutely.
What's your web address? What's your
CandeloKimbisa@gmail.com.
Well, that's an email. Do you have a website?
Kimbisa.org.
Well, that's easy. And of course, Conjure New Orleans.
ConjureNewOrleans.com.
ConjureNewOrleans.com. And of course, you can find everything I do at ChristianDay.com, or that's pretty much the portal to the universe of crazy that is my world. And I don't know what next week's topic is. Do we have an idea?
No, we're thinking about that
We'll
still.
think about it. I want to find something really button-pushing that upsets people. Anyway, good night, everybody.
Good night to all of you. Thank you so much for listening.